in this session.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, okay, excellent, 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 excellent. So, good evening, everyone. I hope you guys are doing good and staying safe. My name is Daya Prakash, and I would be moderating today's session. I would like to welcome you all on behalf of ETCIO to an insightful session organized by IBM. The topic of today's session is Build Compelling Decision Intelligence with Predictions and Optimization. Who better than us would know that what is the current economic situation out there, right? I think this is one such situation that we have faced is, a lesson of our lifetime, so to say, right? Economy is under tremendous pressure. If I say that, you would all agree to that. This has led to the organizations think about achieving much more with less, right? So that's the current state of affairs today. Now, if the organizations have to survive in today's competitive world, then they have to do more with less. There is no other alternate approach but to achieve that through building efficiencies, productivities in the business processes that we follow today, right? With that basic context, I would like to request each one of you to kindly introduce yourself one by one. I will take the name. So please introduce yourself by taking 1 minute so that all of us know what is the kind of experience that we bring to the table in today's discussion and make it more engaging, right? So I would like to start with you, Mr. Abhay. If you can kindly introduce yourself by taking not more than a minute or so. Mr. Abhay, over to you.
I am Abhay Gapna and working for Adani Wilmar since 7 years. My basic background is in manufacturing, supply chain and optimization, and have strong background in statistics also, and I worked across different countries and different, like CPG industry were the one which matured earlier in adopting in the planning optimization. Those are the things which are now happening everywhere. So this is where, and right now I am focusing on all application and new tools which to be implemented to enable business for better decision making.
Excellent, excellent. Thank you so much. Mr. Vikas.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Vikas Gupta, and I'm a part of Hiranandani Energy, the energy venture from the Hiranandani Realtors, the premium realtors. We have our port in Jaigarh, which is Ratnagiri district, a beautiful landscape place. I've been here for about last 3 years. Prior to that, I was working with SR and mostly involved with their manufacturing and projects domain. Here it is most of a gas delivery thing. We're the first ones in this Asia Pacific region to be having an FSRU based, which is floating storage regasification unit based gas distribution system.
Excellent, excellent. Mr. Derek.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Derek. So I am a member of the IBM Data Science and AI Elite team. So I'm based out of Sydney, Australia. I've been living here for the last 8 years. So before that, I grew up, got my education, all in Singapore. So for the last probably about 22 years, I spent almost all my life working on largely to do with optimization, right? CPLEX, doing modeling in those days. And with that also expanded across into the space of predictive, because these two technologies actually work pretty much hand in hand. So I've worked in, I'm pretty fortunate to be working in several different industries. So ranging from oil and gas, right? So to very strange one like forestry, right? So to even financial services as well. So I'm happy to be here, right? To meet everyone and to perhaps hear your thoughts and share some of the thoughts around these two technologies.
Thank you so much, Derek. Thank you so much, Mr. Jayant.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone, and I'm Jayant Gupta. I belong to Hindustan Petroleum Corporation Limited. We are a Maharatna company serving all ends of the oil business, spread across the whole country, also in Dubai. Uh, we market all petroleum downstream products, and my role is to support business in various technological initiatives and support them with various solutions to enable them to do business better.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Dr. Alok.
Okay, I represent Samsung here, and Samsung in 10 regions that we have. Southwest Asian region headquarters is in Delhi, Gurgaon, and we have 2 manufacturing units here and 2 R&D units. So as CTO, I'm responsible for the R&D units based out of Bangalore. We have 5G, AI, IoT. Those are our center of excellence. And I look after the whole innovation dimensions, including in-house as well as open innovations. And in particular, I work in the AI, IoT space, and I head a lab even in our headquarters as part of global executive in Korea on the big data and IoT junction.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Dr. Alok. Mr. Rakesh. You seem to be on mute, Mr. Rakesh.
Am I good now?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Good now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Rakesh Meher. I manage the information architecture domain of analytics business unit in India for IBM. When I say information architecture, it's all about the foundation of the analytics infrastructure on which we make the AI applications ready to work. So be it AI ready or engaging the ML, DL, and the AI itself to build AI. So there are some exciting stuff coming on your way. It's been almost for what, 15 years for me in Indian IT industry. Before that, I've traveled across, I've studied outside. I've gotten some experience, which I sometimes get an opportunity to leverage with thought leaders like you. And needless to say, it's an exciting opportunity to be interacting with all of you and looking forward to a very, very engaging session with you all. Thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So as we discussed about it, that we are going to have discussion around the business intelligence, and we are going to have on the discussion on the process optimization, right? My first question to you, Mr. Jayan, is that data is recognized as the fuel powering enterprise digital transformation, but also companies often struggle to get control of and manage their most important business asset, which is data. What's your take on this?
Yeah, so if you look at data, fortunately, some part of the data is well managed. Since ERP got implemented in most of the big organizations quite some time back, so the core data is very well secured and very well managed. It is the additional data that makes AI/ML more competent or more value deliverable when you have those other data sets also available in the form that they can be used. And that data typically is the IoT data or OT data rather, as we use it in various plant automation, in refineries and so on. So that becomes a major point to look at. Although I'm not very sure as to how much of it is known around, but majority of the automation in the petroleum sector is already well managed. So you have something called historian in almost every refinery, not only in India, but across, which records all the refining data. All the processes that are set up in refinery are already pumping that data into historians, and that gets managed well. So majorly, most of the data is available. And we have done some baby steps in the direction of making use of that data. I think we'll talk about it in due course of time and during this discussion.
Sure.
but it's quite in control, I would say, majorly.
Okay, okay,
Yes.
fair enough, fair enough. So get a sense from it that the data which is present in the form of ERP kind of a function, that's pretty much which is already in place. But there are areas around IoTs, OTs, which are like still have to have like that kind of a grip on that kind of a data. That's the state of affairs in your organization. So, Mr. Vikas, if I may come to you and ask the same question, what is the state of affairs at your organization?
I think fairly I agree with Mr. Jain. Now, as per the human psychology and human tendency, the tendency has always been to harness as much as possible. Now, that means gather as much information from anywhere that is possible and utilize to the benefit of ourselves and in the community, in the context of the community at large. So, from the times we had ERPs, we had MES, we had internet for that matter, in the years starting from 96, 97 onwards. And then we got into like, various other domains of how to utilize Excel maybe better, and then move on from that on to like various other tools of mining and mincing data and making some useful some useful meaning out of that particular data. So what I'm trying to bring at is, from the times man has been able to gather information right from any number of years back, be it in the olden ages, prehistoric times, conquering the environment is something which has been existing and dominating nature of human being. So from the perspective of that, even in our organization, I would say largely, I would not say 100%, but I would say largely it is quite an extent harnessed. It's quite an extent available in form of some readable format. But again, I would say what extent is being interpreted, how meaningful information is being derived out of it, is something that is to be looked at and probably we'll discuss again.
Sure, definitely. Mr. Jayant, looks like you have some
Yeah.
point to
So I
make
just
here.
wanted to add, since you made that comment, I thought I'll clarify
Sure.
that OT being separate networks. We used to have air gap arrangements earlier for OT networks. And so those data exist in managed form, except that they were all separate containers. What we are now trying to do is getting all those brought in into one place where it could be utilized for those AIML purposes.
Sure,
Please
got
go
it.
ahead.
Yeah, sure. So you talking about being siloed to kind of getting into a dashboard which gives you insight,
Yes,
complete insight on
absolutely.
that.
Yeah.
Fair enough, fair enough, fair enough. Excellent. Thank you so much. Dr. Alok, you spoke about, your role at Samsung and, the R&D, and, an organization which is into, delivering products per customer, choice or liking or, preference, right? I mean, there is a lot of insights that needed for any organization to kind of do a deep study on what kind of a product user may want or demand, right? So there's a lot of gray area which obviously does not get covered in any of the standard ERP tools, which are like well established for other functions. It could be finance, HR, operations, supply chain, etc., etc. But this is like one greenfield area that's very difficult to capture the information, and that's a big challenge. So if you can share your thoughts on how are you addressing this challenge, or how are you dealing effectively with this kind of a challenge of capturing this kind of a data set so that you can convert it into intelligence at some stage.
Sure. I think, just to take a step back in the organization level, as Mr. Jain and Vikas also mentioned, whether it is an IT data, and HR data, and finance data, they have been there, maybe containerized, siloed, but all getting integrated. So that's one set of data that's evolving, and the human interventions are becoming lesser. But your question is on the products journey that we have been doing. So there are a couple of other things that are happening. One is the data revolution itself, and all these being available, big data coming into picture. But also for us, like we've been selling products and they have been, whether it is a refrigerator at home or air conditioner or a mobile or a watch, whichever. So earlier they were kind of seen as an individual product and you could collect data, whether people like this particular color or that color, or which gender is preferring which one, which age group, demographic, user segmentations. So that's one part of the story. But what's happening, there are two other revolutions that are happening side by side. One is on the AI, the other is in the IoT. So I said that, I'm in the intersection space. So what we are looking at is first is this from single devices to all these devices getting connected. Even in the home context itself, all of these devices, can I have a smart kitchen, a smart living room? And then a whole home can be seen as a smart home. And then even going from smart home to smart city, or a home to a building or a campus, all these are like hierarchical structure, and you can have the data also collected accordingly. So the data that we are getting on each of these individual devices, now I'm seeing in the connected space. And if I'm using this, am I also using that after it, right? If I'm in the kitchen, then I know what are the devices that are there. So we have built a Smart Things app and a Smart Things cloud. And so they talk to each other. And there are many ways you can communicate through voice or touch or anything, but you get the data in the cloud. And what happens is these devices data, so it actually tells you that these are the devices in this particular room, these are the devices in this room, and these are voice operated, these are not. This, when you do that, immediately after that, you always follow. So there is a relationship correlation. Therefore, I can put an if then else kind of rule. If I wake up with my bed sensors, I start warming up the coffee. So there is a correlation, and you can start building it. And the data intelligence tells that there is a pattern, that these three things almost you are doing one after the other. And therefore, can I throw you a suggestions that you can even make a macro of going out mode or seeing movie mode. I can drop down the curtain, I can dim your light, I can start the movie, and could be romantic movie or whichever, so you can make it interesting. So that's the IoT layer. And then the additional AI layer, whether it is a voice intelligence or visual analytics, surveillance kind of things,
Sure.
you could add that as a next layer.
Sure.
And this final contextual layer, which is happening things simultaneously, one across the other that I mentioned.
Sure.
And the data that we do, analytics, is on two fronts. One is to analyze this whole set. The
So,
other
Dr.
is,
Alok,
as you said,
I'm
is
sorry,
that,
I'm sorry, but on the analytics piece, which will, we will come little later, but I just want
sure.
to get a complete sense on how effectively are we able to capture the data today? So, I mean,
Today we
but
have
I'll just come back to you on the analytics piece, but, at this
Yeah.
point of time, just want to, make sure that we have a good understanding on
Okay.
getting hang of the data by the enterprises, right?
So we have 150 million devices connected into our smart things. So that
Wow.
should be giving you an
Wow.
idea of the
Absolutely.
data that we are generating. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, thank you so much for that. Thank you so much, and I know that a lot of insights are going to come from you subsequently in this session itself. But I just wanted to park that discussion over there only for the time being. Derek, at this point of time, I want to get some global perspective. You've heard all these speakers till now. I think the sense that we are getting is that as far as the question of getting the data captured, that's pretty much a hygiene factor. That's something which is coming out. What has been your experience in terms of enterprises globally, where they are in terms of getting a good hang on the data that they are required to generate or they are generating?
Yes, I think from what we've seen with customers all around the world, right, we tend to find that nowadays, compared to maybe 15 years back, right, the organizations are a lot more sophisticated and definitely much more diligent in capturing the set of data, right? Today we've heard Jayant talking about capturing all this in ERP, there's MES system. So generally the consensus is yes, data is actually being captured because they truly understand being able to start with something is really important, because I have personally seen myself a couple of years back where clients say, I want to be able to build some cool analytical application to help me to perhaps fulfill a specific business need. But at the point where we actually perform some sort of a discovery workshop, we often find that there are data gaps itself. And that's the point when they realize they say, okay, I need to be collecting a certain set of data. So, especially now with the proliferation of big data in place, like what Dr. Alok mentioned, right? With IoT devices, it's so easy for you to collect the data. And today, storage itself, it's really cheap. And there's already technology available for you to be able to ingest billions and billions of records of data easily. So in that sense itself, the fear of over collecting of data itself, it's somehow sort of like subside, in recent times. But that being said itself, okay, one very important part is I found that there are always cases where Excel, the good old Excel, till today, a lot of planners, right, be it in supply chain, in finance, tend to use Excel, a lot. Now that is got to do with the flexibility to be able to perform multiple things. And this is where the challenge lies, right, with all business leaders, including all CIOs, is how do we encourage, business users to relinquish Excel and put it into somewhere into a repository so that these can actually be digitized and they can actually be mined for further insights. So some projects I've seen today, we've got largely 80, 90% of them sits in a repository. There's always 5, 10, 15% that comes from Excel, and you've got to cater for the ingestion of this, data sitting in Excel. And we all know that when it's in Excel, they are not normalized. It creates tons of problems for, analysts or data scientists being able to be able to ingest it to, use it.
Sure.
So that's my thought.
Sure. Thank you so much, Derek. Thank you so much. And you brought in a very interesting point here, which is like, so far we have been able to get the sense of how well organizations are able to capture the data. And there is a consensus out there that, in terms of data capturing, organizations are fairly placed today. They are able to capture the data. Mr. Jain spoke about it, Mr. Vikas, Dr. Alok, everybody mentioned the same thing. And you also mentioned, you brought out this challenge of capturing the data and putting it into the Excel, and relying a lot on Excel. And at this point of time, Abhay, let me come to you, Mr. Abhay, and ask you, because you have this huge experience on analytics, in terms of implementation and seeing these organization projects go successful. What has been your take in with respect to your enterprise, your organization, and your knowledge of the industry, that in terms of analysis, because this is also a fact that a lot of organizations are capturing data, a lot of data very effectively, but when it comes to analytics, there is only about 10% data which is being analyzed as per some of the research reports. But I mean, over to you, Mr. Abhay.
Yeah, so the point is like, yes, definitely now everybody is started collecting the data. IoT is the one, or you say manufacturing side. So like, machine utility, predictive maintenance, these are the data which can be easily captured, which are not manipulated and can be analyzed very easily. So that is one component when you say manual. Second component is logistic. Like, if you think of end-to-end logistics, when the trucks are moving across India, and you have to monitor, you have to check whether the distance is correct, whether they're going to reach on time, whether the pricing is correct. That's where you use analytical component, because the volume of data is huge. And the third one is more from the point of view, more of a sales side, where you have primary sales, secondary sales. Secondary sales means more data, more last mile information is available. Challenges in the secondary sales will be like, normally the accuracy of telephone number, area, pin. These are the data which sometimes give you problem, because these are the things which constantly changes. It's like, so that is area where we sometimes face problem, but the one data which is coming from machine, IoT, sensors, and that is helping us out. We started based on the pilot work at whatever we did, because one thing is getting the data, doing analysis of that, finding out insight, foresight, segmentation, or whatever you say, and understanding that. So the gap normally is understanding that data and giving to the end user to enable them to take better decision. So that's where our focus is. And we started couple of projects where we are successful in the pilot run, and then we rolled out to other location. So that's one component. Uses, it will take some time, because once the data which is coming from system is not manipulated, not changed by any, so you can use it for better decision making, better profiling, better segmentation, or like, that kind of thing. So that is helping us out to identify, yes, these are the area to be focused, these are the data which we can give it to business for decision making.
Sure.
So right now the journey is like, people were like earlier were using report, now they are moved to dashboard. So like data getting converted to information, but it is not getting converted to insights.
Sure.
That's where huge effort and energy will go now, actually, to educate everybody.
Sure.
And that comes from senior management, who constantly say, no, mereko enablers dikao, enablers. So that is where it helps you, actually. So it's a journey, and data is helping us out, actually.
Yeah.
And it will take some time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Abhay. Derek, you had some quick point to make here?
Yes, this is a question maybe to pose to everyone, right? Because Mr. Abhay talked about, instrumentation when you collect data to make better decisions, right? So I personally, about a year back, actually had this very interesting conversation with, with one of the chief data officer, right, with academic institution, right? Because when we start to collect data right now everywhere, right, the reason why we collect this is actually to measure and put some KPI on the business, right? And as human beings ourselves, right, you start to measure, you're capable to measure, say, how efficient is every single individual in their contribution to the business. What are your thoughts, or have you had any experiences that when this is being imposed and individuals understand that the data is actually collected and used to measure them, you may often find that some of the data may actually somehow be intentionally tweaked, right, to make the KPIs look good so that the person will look good. And as a result, the businesses may be collecting data that is perhaps half truth, that is not completely the ground truth. So my question is, how do you actually manage and try to mitigate this risk so that you get the real ground truth?
Derek, I will say something on this. Earlier we were facing the same problem where users were able to manipulate some of the data, say reason of machine downtime. Now, when you give chance to them, they will write whatever statement they want, X or Y, Z reason. But now what we have done, that we are forcing them to select from the list of values. Okay, they cannot, like, it can be when the machine goes down or the production is down. The reasons are like either labor is not there, raw material is not there, maintenance is not. So these are the standard reasons. So earlier they used to write a text that was post facto. Now what we have done is we are forcing him to, if before he goes to the next step, he has to select that and go. So that is helping us to give a right direction, actually. So the KPIs are measured again. Same is the case with the operational efficiency or predictive maintenance, where KPIs are defined, OEM capacity is defined, what is our capacity against that measurement. So that measurement is also becoming very easy, and they are able to understand that.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Mr. Abhay. Mr. Vikas, yeah.
Just one quick statement here. What we were trying to do is give an additional text field, or as in addition to what Abhay said. So what we will do is we'll probably run analytics on this and maybe try to come up with a couple of more reasons to refine and give little more opportunity for the users to be more realistic than just be maybe 50% away from the actual reason. So this is just a refinement, probably, Derek, that we would also wanted to propose and which we are actually trying to go ahead with.
Sure. So, Mr. Tushar, we are having this conversation on the data. I know that you were little late in joining us, but I will come back to you. And in the meantime, just see what the discussion is going on, and I'll come back to you. But at this point of time, I would like to bring Mr. Rakesh in the discussion. And Mr. Rakesh, you heard this big challenge of one is that data analytics, the amount of effort being put in by the organizations, right? So less than 10% organization as per research that you heard, right? So some stats on that from your experience of the industries that you talk to across India. And the second thing is that the challenge that Derek mentioned, and Abhay was also talking about in terms of the ability by the user for the user to manipulate the data and present it to the management, right? What's the state of affair on that, if you can? Mr. Rakesh, you are on mute.
Important to come to that. So I'm very tempted that question first, but let me address the question. Industries that we have been working with IBM and the challenges we've been hearing from.
Mr. Rakesh, there is some disturbance in the voice. We are not able to hear you properly.
Rakesh sir, can you remove the earpod? Use your Rakesh sir, can you remove the earphone?
Okay.
Use your.
Not able to hear you. Not able to hear you.
Can I answer that question?
Yeah, Mr. Tushar. Mr. Rakesh, let's have input from Mr. Tushar, and then
sure. Just let me know if I'm audible now.
Yeah. Now you are audible. Now you are audible. I'll just come back to you. Let's capture some views from Mr. Tushar. Yes, Mr. Tushar.
So I have heard people saying that the effort in data collection is 100%, but in analytics is 10%. So I don't believe on that. What I believe is all the CIOs are trying their level best to give also analytics. But I'll tell you the real problem. When we were small, we were given pieces of glass and we used to make a kaleidoscope with mirrors at different angle and see a pattern. As you move the kaleidoscope, the pattern changes. So management is that way. Today they have to see one pattern. Tomorrow say, no, change my pattern. And again change it. Every time they're also evolving, their needs are evolving, and they expect the CIOs to catch up. Now, we don't have such a kaleidoscope for reporting. Okay. We do not know what is their mindset, so what they want to see. So that's a catch-up game which we are playing. Okay. So that is the main problem. Efforts are there, but the outcomes are not there. Okay.
Sure.
How to generate the outcome? The management has to define some 50 parameters and give it to us.
Sure.
The next time you make a report or make some analytics, these are my parameters. Talk about those parameters, talk about these 10 outcomes. Like example, top line, bottom line, eco-friendly, employee-friendly, customer-friendly. So whatever reports you are doing, whatever analytics you are doing, you should be saying within these 10 parameters and these 50 different types of variables which are there. Then we can do something and create our own kaleidoscope. That is where the problem lies.
Sure. No, great input. Great input. Thank you. Yeah, over to you, Mr. Rakesh.
Yeah, I second what Mr. Tushar is saying. And, trust me, Mr. Tushar, you are not alone there. This has been invariably the problem everywhere. And I also concur with what Mr. Jayan and Mr. Vikas, they are talking about. Data is being collected from every multiple sources. But then how would you provide a cross-collaborative platform for people to walk there? Now, we have to set some standards. Setting of standards is very, very important. The first thing first is companies in India are now at a maturity curve that they know how to collect the data efficiently. Very fine. We have graduated to that level. Now the next level comes in. The one which kicks in is how do I give definition to that data so that the team across different departments can have one single meaning of that data. Then only they can act on that data and then they can execute the data the way it is desired. We call that enterprise business glossary. Okay, whatever the data being collected from ERP, being collected from your HR portal, collected from different IoT devices, there has to be a single unified definition of each and every KPIs in the data. And again, Mr. Tushar has highlighted that how long I keep on doing that manually. Just let me give you an industry standard that we have established with one of the manufacturing companies. I remember this meeting with the CIO in last year, and he said, Rakesh, you know what? The technology that you have right now would still compel me to do these tagging of business justification manually. And that's going to take a lot of time. Till cows come home, I can keep on doing it, and still I'll not be ending up with 10% of the data. Now, the new industry standard right now is, because of the new advent of technology on IBM platform, we have been doing the asset tagging or the definition tagging of the technology terms of in the order of 200,000 assets in just 5 minutes. That means you are going to create business glossaries in the tune of hundreds and thousands in just 5 minutes. How is it happening? Because of the ML and DL. Because the tools, they understand, it's like brass, right? You rub it and shines more and more. So likewise, it understands the way you are defining the definitions, giving the definitions, and then it starts doing automatically. That's a fair degree of automation. Now, the second point is, how can I stop manipulation of the data from the point of inception to the point of visualization? How do I do that? Now, we also providing the same platform to all the users in a very tightly seamless integration in the LDAP, LDAP and all the single sign-on and all, through which you can actually make the right data available to the right people at the right time. And that's very, very key. Democratizing the data, but with discipline. And that is one of the very important things that we have achieved with many companies in India itself.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Rakesh. Thank you so much. I think, time is to move on to, the journey of, I think the journey of data to intelligence is well captured, but time is to move on to the journey of, from prediction to prescriptive. I think let's spend some time on that as we enter this part of the session now. And Dr. Alok, I would like to, start with you in terms of, you spoke about AI implementation and the possibility of AI and all that, right? So if you can just walk us through in terms of the certain areas where your organization has been able to effectively leverage on AI implementation, and how it has helped you bring in the efficiencies, and go take that journey of from predictive to prescriptive. If you can share some examples with us, and maybe we'll come back to you on the challenges as well, maybe subsequently, but some journey from all of you, right?
Yeah, I don't think, we have moved yet. I mean, many organizations, not just us, to predictive to prescriptive. I mean, that's a tougher bet, and you need to be absolutely confident on what you are saying. So I would still think that descriptive and predictive is a good space to operate first, but much more holistically, much more integrated way, using all the datas to be able to do, and particularly certain fields of, let's say, if you are doing even digital health, trying to be prescriptive, because multiple layers, your sources of data, you're not 100%. The intelligence algorithm, yes, it works. You can screen a patient, but would you like to prescribe? That's effectively, you are replacing the doctors. I don't think we have to move so quickly, and it takes time to get seasoned there. But what I would like to highlight is same set of data when you integrate, and Mr. Rakesh talked about two important things. One is a common glossary, definitions of each of these scope, what it means, so that everybody understands the same way. Registered users are registered users, everything from that angle. And the second thing is single sign-on. Every company has a own way. Samsung account, we have all of the devices, any devices you buy, if you go into that, the data is captured, and we can know that who that user is. So what we do from there is effectively two things. One is same set of data, but can be meaningful from visualization standpoint to the actual decision making in a different way. Because for example, I have an user community. Somebody is building the voice assistant. Let's say we are building Bixby or Google Assistant or whichever, just to take an example. If I have to build that, there are components of automatic speech recognition or NLU. If you have to build that, you have to know the system performance. Therefore, from my same data, what's working, what's not working, one recommendation I make to them, one visualization I make to them so that they can improve their system performance. Then I look from a different angle. If I go to the executives, they would like to have those KPIs that we talked about. So they want the summary. I want to go towards a different cuts and maybe consumer experience, let's say. So even though my system is doing very well, but let's say one particular thing is not working. So the developer would say, I'm almost there, look at my system accuracy, but I try 20 names to call and only 5 goes through and 15 doesn't go through. So at the end, the consumer experience stays at that level. So what I'm trying to highlight is, and then if you go to sales and marketing, they could look into which store from wholesale to retail to which color being sold. If user is using this device alongside, what can they do? These are the kinds of things we are looking into it. And then going up one level, I'm able to make recommendations. For example, I see statistically, when people have bought 2 devices, they are using this way. There is a best practice. I can see that how they are using these 2 devices together. Now, if you have same 2 devices, but you are never using them that way, I can suggest to you by saying, look, have you explored this? This is the beauty of it. This is the benefit. Or if you are using 2 devices, I can say that if you have had a 3rd device, you could have built up the value this way. This is the recommendatory steps. And I think this is where we are hovering around and we are trying to perfect the system and grow more than to cross the river and get to the prescriptive.
Sure. No, I think I completely agree with your thoughts. It has to be very, very cautious approach that you take because obviously, a lot of things are on stake. So you're very right there. And, it's easy to say from predictive to prescriptive, but, when it comes to implementation, like people depending on those hard facts and what kind of decision making will happen from the enterprises side and what kind of implications it might have. So Derek, any views from you on that front actually that Dr. Alok brought in this point of being cautious on that while he's saying that we are on this journey and we will be on this journey, but at the same time he's also talking about step by step approach. Absolutely.
Yes, I just want to add on to the point. So what Dr. Alok mentioned, I think I echo that. I've seen that in many customers, not only just in India, in other parts of the world. So that's probably why I would say that, prescriptive analytics is always the poor cousin of predictive analytics, because people wants to say, okay, I need to be able to predict well, right? Because if I don't predict well, then what am I going to prescribe it? Just like a doctor. If I say, you've got a fever, I give you some, paracetamol. But if I can't predict well and be able to diagnose well, then I will just give you, a drug that doesn't fit you well. So that's the I would say the mindset of most businesses today. But only one point to note is that now actually prescriptive is not only just so-called optimization as part of the technology stack. Prescriptive analytics does include your traditional, simple, rule-based way of doing things, right? Just like what Dr. Alok mentioned earlier on. So you can actually say that if a certain condition is met, then I can recommend a certain set of actions. Now, these can actually be built through your expertise knowledge of your business over time. Right. So in some industries, they tend to be a bit more robust and things don't change very often. But in some extremely fast-moving industries, when you need to tap into customer behavior, now to be able to maintain the set of rules becomes cumbersome, becomes really difficult. like what Mr. Tushar mentioned, right? Businesses direction keep changing. I can keep updating the set of rules that becomes difficult. So this is the point where, good old rule-based approach does actually still maintain a certain set of, footprint within the prescriptive, family. So that's the only point I want to add.
Sure. Thank you so much, Derek. Mr. Jayant, your inputs, please, on this.
Yeah, so I was just wondering, I've been really not been able to figure out the much of difference between predictive and prescriptive, to be honest, as far as a manufacturing organization is concerned. We typically see the examples of healthcare and so on. But if we did quite a lot of work in AIML, we have for sales, for example, dashboard which tells them which customers are losing sales, which retail outlets are not performing well. We also are able to give them very clear pointers to which customers should they go and look for sales based on the cross data of various inputs that we do work on. Now, whether we call it predictive or prescriptive, I'll leave it to your wisdom to decide. But we are able to give them very clear pointers on what to do. So we've achieved that kind of a success. We've also been able to use, and I think a lot of us in the panel also would be using something called chatbot. We have our own homegrown tool where user goes through various problems and looks at the solution. And also the solution is applied by the tool itself. So depending on the problem that they keep answering based on a conversation, at the end of it, if it calls for a tool to be applied on it, it gets applied by the system itself. So as I said, I'll leave it to your wisdom to decide whether it has reached that stage or not.
Sure. Yeah, Derek.
Yes, I think what Mr. Jain did nail it completely, right? The prescriptive analytics is a recommendation to the business what you should do, right? Having the prediction is good, but it's an actionable insights. The actionable part is really important to most businesses. Now, I just want to call upon this point, right? It is in some businesses, it's fairly easy to come up with maybe reasonably good actionable insights, right? In the world of mathematics, when we talk about optimization, I want to have the best possible decision. But when it comes to business, it's speed over, the optimal solution. We are not chasing and going after, right, a PhD thesis and attempt to prove optimality. In business itself, it's about getting good enough solution. That's all it matters, right? Nobody would be bothered about say, I'm just like, 0.1% fractional off, or I'm half a percentage off. As long as the technology, no matter how rudimentary it is, performs better than what a human being does at much faster speed, that is prescriptive analytics applied at its best.
Sure. Derek. So I keep saying this, that technology has to at the best be enabler, and it can't just simply define the the course of action for the organization to be followed necessarily by simply relying on some mathematical algorithms or the formula there. So completely agree with you. Mr. Abhay, if I may come to you and understand from you in your journey on the optimization side, whether it is on the supply chain or manufacturing, etc. What is the kind of initiative? What are the kind of initiatives that you have taken, and the the challenge that you would have come across? I want to come towards the challenges of adopting AI ML as we speak. So just want to have some maybe 5-7 minutes discussion on that particular point.
So initially the challenge was like people ability to understand the insight or insight given by the system, which we say. Second is initially, yes, data collection and all this was little bit like it's not a normal process where you, once the data is collected, how do you analyze? Do you have capability to analyze the data? So descriptive years went through. Now we are at the diagnostics stage in the logistic area. Once we are able to know, okay, why it happened, then you know what are the corrective, what will happen also based on the historical data. System will give you suggestion. It's, in the end, it is suggestion by the system which you accept or not. And it is based on the historical data fact with all the variables you have considered. So ultimately it helps you, but we are at the journey in the diagnostics stage moving to predictive stage. Challenge like, you know, only is to analyze the data and take corrective action. So business also needs to get into that and take looking into it and take corrective action, whether it is a manufacturing, logistics, sales, or primary or secondary sales, or all this. Data volume generated is huge, but then what are you looking at? You are looking for exceptions or alerts where you have to take corrective action uh, proactively, not reactive mode. So that's where we are focusing at, especially at plant or logistics sites.
Sure.
That's, these are the 2 points actually.
Sure, sure. If I may come to come to you, Dr. Alok, on this, so Mr. Abhay spoke about the challenges around the, volume of the data that is getting generated and all that. So this is like one challenge, good challenge to have in place. The second, challenge which I come across when I talk to industry leaders like yourself is the whole infrastructure piece in the organization to even cater to that decision making fact, right? So there's no single view, right? There are Mr. Jayant also spoke about that availability of the data, but a part of data is in silos still. So those kind of silos still do exist in a lot of enterprises even as of today, right? So the ability to have a complete view of the data and then be able to kind of make some decision on the basis of that, to by getting a single view of it. So your take on that, Dr. Alok?
Yeah, I think we all talk about single source of truth. I mean, there are a couple of points here. One is, yeah, these are in silos and different departments have collected them, and then rightfully so, because if there is a digital appliance team, they will gather that data. If it's a mobile, it's coming from another. So there's nobody wrong. That's how it got started. Now the fusion, when you do, obviously there could be an overlap. So data deduplications are very, very important. Some are in the table, some are in different formats. So who defines that? I think someone mentioned about the standardizations of these. They could be into various formats, and where do you transform? And it's a job, it's a hidden job. So sometimes it gets left behind because that's not something visible, that's not giving immediate output, but it is important, necessary steps to do that. And that's where I think once you have sufficient and company believes that, yeah, there is material and there is bigger value, and then they put a department or some task force or whichever way the organization works. Now it is time to integrate. So it's not like always you could have done top down fully in these cases. It will be bottom up in majority of the cases, until unless a new age company freshly starting, then it's different. But it's quite historical. I mentioned about historian being then in manufacturing. So it is getting built, and now you have it. At this point, the bigger challenge that comes is when you try to integrate even, that's a good, noble cause. But the problem is it's like an elephant, right? As I said, there is a developer who wants a different perspective. There is an executive who has a different perspective. Each department still needs their way of interpreting the data to run their business. But who is holding that elephant and who is nurturing it, and is it leg or the trunk? That's the story that comes about when you make it bigger. But at the same time, I agree that it is a necessary steps, and companies are evolving to handle that in gradual steps.
Great. Thank you so much, Dr. Alok. Mr. Rakesh, what has been your observation, again, from an industry point of view, state of affairs in India?
Yeah, I mean, I couldn't agree more with Dr. Alok and Abhay and Mr. Vikas and Mr. Jayant, what they all have put together. the inherent challenge always been the integration aspect of the data. You give it single meaning of the data. When the CSO and CMO both are standing in front of the CEO making their presentations, as Mr. Jayant and Mr. Vikas highlighted, that how much is the data is trustworthy, and the single source of that data, can you right there, then and there, can highlight that this is the data lineage. This is where the data started. This is where we have taken the reports. And this is what the data is talking about the truth. Even if your data is not matching, my data is actually talking the truth, telling you the truth. So that is one aspect where industry is striving towards, thanks to technology, that we have been able to help many of our customers in bringing a great deal of automation there. So a couple of striking things before I end up. One is, how are we engaging AI to build AI, which I discussed initially, that we are actually giving most of the redundant tasks to the AI itself. Imagine you are hiring a data scientist, and instead of crunching the data numbers and building models, he is doing the job of lifting chairs and tables. Is an analogy, is a metaphor, that he is going to the different business owners, collecting the data from them, asking for approvals, then putting down the data in one single platform, then doing the analysis on top of it. No, you're not paying him for this. You are paying him. They are high paid salaried people for building effective and efficient models. Now, it is our job as facilitators to provide them that platform. So what we have been doing, we did it with one of the regulatory entities, the largest in India. There we deployed the AI with which would, based on the ML and DL, gather all the data. So for the entire data of your enterprise, you have a single dashboard. So you can also see the health of your data, whether it is growing, any of the KPIs is skewing the data quality, or the data is improving. All you can see in a single dashboard. Even if the data scientist is raising a request, within minutes, because of the integration, it gets approved. So by doing that, then you are getting an opportunity to fail fast. Now, is it important for me to fail fast? Yes, of course it is important for you to fail fast, because if you don't fail fast, then you don't know which is the right way where you are going. Maybe you would be spending 12 months in building a model just to realize that you are actually walking the wrong path. So my point is, AI can actually help you there. Okay, technology is already there, available in the market. You just need to plug it, play it, and then models will be built. Then you decide by putting more data into it, whether it is actually making sense or not. Now, I would like to address Dr. Alok's one point, that your experts are building models, storing it. Okay, now that model could be useful for one LOB in a separate way, another LOB in a different way, right? Now, we also have platforms which actually store, doesn't matter whether it's open source based or proprietary based. You can store all the models and then use it as a library, and then keep on working on it, and then multiple business users can use it for their use cases. So this is how I'm seeing a greater deal of adoption of AI for building, engaging AI for their respective use cases.
Sure, great. Thank you so much. I think we should, wrap up this session in another 5 minutes in the interest of time for everyone. But any important thing comes to anybody's mind, I'm very happy to take that. Mr. Jayant, anything you would like to add here, or Mr. Vikas, anything? Mr. Tushar, anything from your side on?
Yes. So what I want to add here is that what is our actual problem in hand which we face at the moment? The problem is prediction is fine, okay, but after we predict, the management wants to know what are the micro level tasks to be performed. Then they want to know, have you followed up with those tasks? Okay, have they've been completed? Have a child task been derived from that task? Can I have a drill down of that? So that is what today the management expects. Earlier, what used to happen was, suppose I got Salesforce and I got data of maybe 20,000 prospects which are there. I used to give them analytics. They were happy with that. Said, no, of this 20,000, maybe 1,000 are going to buy from us. On this 1,000, there are again 5 more categories. What is the action on each one of them? What are you doing next? What is the sales team doing next? Okay, and all such things. So they want to now have a reporting plus analytics plus transaction system mixed up. So from transactions comes analytics, and then comes again transaction and again analytics. So that is what is being viewed now.
That is the difficulty which you're facing now. I
think
understand prescriptive is fine.
Yeah. Very interesting point that you brought in, Mr. Tushar. Very interesting point. Mr. Jayant, you had something to say.
Yeah, so I agree with Tushar, what he said. We need to remember that world has already moved on to this bandwagon of AI/ML.
Mhm.
It's good to hear what Tushar was talking about. And we also see in our organization the requirement of support in decision making, in prediction, in prescription, growing a lot, which is very good for uh, us as a country. And I'm sure all the organizations must be working overtime to catch up that race. The faster we adopt, the more productive our organizations would be and more competitive they would be on a world scale. So I
Sure.
feel that we are all on the right track.
Sure. No, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Jayant, for that. Mr. Vikas, you had
I
some
just
point to
wanted
make.
say that we were discussing on the prescriptive and the predictive. I would say it has to be consultative for the simple reason that it's a give and take. So the system takes inputs and it gives us an output. And then I go back to the system again and say, no, I think here is an additional KPI that got to be built in. And the system rearranges and remodifies and captures certain more information. So it's more of a consultative approach between the system and the users. And it has not necessarily to be prescriptive, where at a press of a button, you say, I prescribe you so and so thing and you better do it. So it just cannot be hire and fire types. It has to be a little more flexible, because that's how we human beings are. We don't love to be governed. The moment it comes to, I'm 100% sure, the moment it says, the system says, Buzz, here is a prescription for you, we will start delving into deeper and find out why the system has said so. Rather, if it gives me an option and say, okay, boss, we arrived at this conclusion, this is this, point A, point B, point C, these are 3-4 things. And then the system gives me an option, or the user an option, or the management an option to pick up and delve probably a little deeper. I would say it has to be a consultative approach.
Sure, fair point. I think, Mr. Derek, you have a point to make here.
Yes, I second what Mr. Vikas mentioned, right? So when we talk about in the world of AI, right? In the good old days, maybe a couple of years back, this sort of system is typically called decision support system, right? So it's actually to help the human being perform the task. And often I see get into workshops, I get a lot of line of business getting very hesitant to share information. With data scientists, they see, right, these people as saying, you're going to take away my job. Tomorrow, once I tell you information, I will lose my job. The organization will replace me completely. So in the world of AI, ML, I will really classify AI as not as artificial intelligence. It's more about augmented intelligence. You can't take away like I would say the flexibility that the human mind is making, but it can actually make the planner much more efficient by looking at coming up to some really good plans and with multiple scenarios, presenting it to an executive and say, these are the 3 possibilities. Are we trying to lower costs? And then that's where we have one plan. Are we trying to maximize my top line? Then I've got a different way of doing it. At the end of the day, it is the business that makes the decision. In that way, you are more likely to see acceptance from the business when coming to rolling out to this sort of AI ML, including the prescriptive analytics.
Sure. Mr. Rakesh, some quick point from your side. We're not able to hear you.
Just to quickly add to Mr. Vikas and Mr. Derek, that's very important. And when you will only trust those prescriptive decisions when you trust the data. And you can only trust the data when you know where it is coming from, what metamorphosis it has gone through, and because of that, what are the impact on the top line and bottom line. Then only you will trust. And it is the system's job, or rather I would say the technology's job, to give you that insight. Then the rest is in your hands to take a decision.
Sure. Well, thank you so much. Any
Yeah, I just wanted
point? Yeah,
just
Dr.
very briefly, I think a very important point of being human-centric and augmented intelligence. I think these are the, crux of the matter, and we should maintain that way. What I
Sure.
just wanted to highlight is that source of data is one part, but also your confidence on what you have analyzed and being able to predict and insights, how confident it is. So that's a score.
Sure.
And what are the options that you have? Like if you have many different options, then you should throw it. In some cases, maybe you have only two choices to do that. So that's important. So confidence and the options available. That was
Right. Sure. No, thank you so much. I think, Mr. Jayant, I understand that you have a hard stop. So I think we are pretty much through with this session. It was kind of very interesting session, insightful session, and there's a lot to learn on this session. I don't want to repeat what our learnings are from this session, but on, the point which Derek, Mr. Derek made on augmented intelligence, I just want to, very quickly share one instance that, I was attending one of the session by a professor at ISB, and he was speaking about, and then at that point of time, there was a huge debate on AI is going to take away jobs, right? So on that, a comment that he made, which is always there with me now, very interesting comment that he made is that the time is coming such that AI is not going to take away your jobs, right? But the people who don't understand AI effectively will be out of job. I can't help that, right? So that's the situation. That's the kind of times that we are in, obviously. So it's more like augmented intelligence than that of artificial intelligence, as Mr. Derek also mentioned. But thank you so much to all of you for joining in today in this very insightful session, and there are quite a great insights that I got to learn from your experience. I wish you all the very best to kind of continue successfully leading your enterprises, and slowly get into a situation where the decision that we make, the confidence on that data, this has to be a truth, as good as truth, right? So we can confidently say that to the enterprises, to the board, that yes, I am telling you because I trust data and I trust my system because I am managing that, I am building that. So thank you so much, all of you, for attending in today. Thank you so much once again.